Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening, either live or with the recording. That's a good place to begin. We had a little problem last week, which we're working on, and we'll have that taken care of. And the goal is that we want to make sure that we get the recording to people no later than Thursday morning so that you have time to review it and then share it with the crew, discuss it with the crew, and so that the content of our programs are represented on the field for that respective Friday night. So we will continue to work on it and to grow with you and everyone else that's associated with the program. I want to thank everyone that is a regular participator, whether it's live or with the recordings. Looking at video, it seems pretty obvious to me the crews and the individuals that are putting the time in, and part of putting the time in is what we do each week. Not that that's the only way you can do it, but it's certainly one of them. Compared to those that are basically showing up and doing the best they can with limited support. So appreciate what you do and how well you're doing it. And as you've heard me say before, there's great satisfaction in working individually and especially collectively with other people on the field to know that you performed well and that you were where you needed to be, that you got the key things that were necessary for that game to be properly adjudicated. So keep doing the right things. Remember that mechanics will get you a long way in terms of doing well on the field. Where we get in trouble is when our mechanics break down and we're out of position, and then either we can't make a call or we're guessing. So work hard, regardless of your position on the field, with your mechanics. Also want to continue to put a plug in for crew culture. Um, that is, along with mechanics, extremely important that we're working well together. And when a situation comes up that we have people that will confer, will go to a person either that has a flag down or doesn't have a flag down to talk it through and to come up with a collective decision as opposed to an individual one. Um, Over the years, it's been clear to me that collective wisdom is far greater than individual. So we're going to continue to reinforce that. We've done that all summer and now into the season. And hopefully you're seeing the results of that within your crews. That the more you talk about it and the more you work on it, the better you are at your communication, and trust and relationships are being developed because of the effort that's being put into it. So please continue to do so. All right, continuing with another new feature of our programs this week, we're having a presentation on crew communication slash mechanics. Tonight, Gary Gaspis is going to present. So, Gary, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Cody, if you want to bring up the clip. Yeah, guys, my name's Gary Gaspis. Been officiating a little while, probably 36 years. Uh, I'm a I'm a regular here on the Rich Ames show, so certainly really enjoy it. So yeah, it's play 40 here. We'll let it play through, and then we'll go back and break it down. All right. So let's go. I'm going to say stop a lot as we go through, and you can stop it right there. Okay. So here, if you look at the where the line of scrimmage is, it's at the the plus 48. We got a sideline pass, and from where the short wings are standing, it may not be as obvious whether it's a forward pass or backward pass. I think looking at the video, and I think even on the field, they felt pretty comfortable that it was a forward pass. I guess the point I would make, mechanically, it would be beneficial for the crew. Any pass within a yard, okay? If it's that close, I would recommend punching. In this case, we would punch forward, okay? We did in this case, but if it was incomplete, then we would obviously had an incomplete pass. So we'll let it play out. He catches the ball and stops. Now remember that they were in a stack formation. Okay, so the shallow receiver, okay, that's going to be the short wing. Okay, if you see where number 6 is, he went vertical but decided to stop at the 45. Okay, the back judge is probably going to be looking at that. Okay, he went most vertical there, and then you can see number 12 is being blocked by a player on offense. That's where I would want my deep wing looking at this time. Okay, let's go ahead and let it play. And stop. So you'll see the short wing is doing what he needs to be doing. Okay, he's looking at the ball carrier. The sideline's going to be threatened. That's exactly where we want him to be. Now, if you look, I can't tell if it's 0 or number 8 from the team in blue or black. Okay, the deep wing, okay, there's a possible threat right there. Okay, and you could see 74. There's another possible threat. Okay, the umpire, he's looking through, but he could be possibly blocked. On this play, before we go forward with it, this is a play that's going to go out of bounds. Okay, so what we want to look at is as soon as the player's out of bounds, okay, who is the biggest threat in maybe hitting the runner once he's out of bounds? Okay, Cody, let it play. And stop it. So if you look at this, okay, the short wing is doing what he's supposed to be doing. Looking at the sideline, ruling if he's out of bounds, then killing the clock. Okay, number 12, he's got him wrapped up, and now you got the threat of someone coming across. You got a couple players there. The field judge should be looking at the second and third threats that happen. Okay, Cody, go ahead and play it. And that second player takes them down. Okay, I'm not talking about number 12 who had him wrapped, but the second player that came through. So the question, you want to ask your deep wings, do we have a safety foul here? Was this a necessary hit? Okay, if you felt, that was a necessary hit, then you obviously have nothing. Okay, if it was unnecessary, we want to see a flag here. Personally, you could see by the angle the ball carrier is being carried out of bounds and pushed out of bounds. It really wasn't, in my opinion, a necessary hit. I would certainly support a flag on this play by my deep wing. Okay, and you see that. Now, if you stop it right there, this is where good dead ball mechanics comes in. At this point in time, I would like to see my deep wing official come running in and separating the players. Anytime you have an opposing player, in this case the running back, he's in the opposing team's bench. We got to be there for separation. Okay, and Cody, if you can just go forward with the tape a little bit more. And what I like here, my short wing looks like he's got a good spot. Okay, he keeps on officiating, keeps his eye in the out of bounds area. I would have liked to seen the deep wing give me a little more hustle. Now, let me give you another scenario. If you look at the short wing, you'll notice once the player goes out of bounds, there are really not a lot of players in front of him. That isn't always the case, because there could be players where, in my opinion, he's a little too close to the play for safety reasons. I would have liked to have seen him a little further back. However, let's say because there was a group of players in his way, this would have been a perfect play then for good crossfield mechanics, where the short wing on the opposite side of the field could have spotted the ball, okay, communicate on the O2Os that he's got the spot, while the short wing as well as the deep wing is doing, good dead ball mechanics. You can see we had no shenanigans in this place, which is nice. It was a nice job of the getting the forward progress spot in this plays, the players out of bounds. But I would have liked to have seen a little more sense of urgency with the deep wing, moving into the bench area to separate players on this particular play. So that's the short and sweet of it, Rich. Comments?
Nice job, Gary. You bring up a lot of really, really important points. Just to quickly recap, we have the decision on forward backwards. So we want, when it's within a yard, in this particular case, for our line judge to punch forward, he's got a forward pass. Then we've zoned up with the blockers. The point that Gary made briefly that I'd like to reinforce is that a common mistake is for our short wings to try to get too close to plays instead of letting them pass. Distance is your friend, where he can still step up to the forward progress spot if he's coming 7 yards as opposed to 4. So the advantage that you have is not only be able to see the runner in the out of bounds spot, but it also gives you an opportunity then to look back into the field and see what might be coming his way. Then Gary was spot on with the deep wing. When we have an opponent go into the bench area, that's a high priority situation, and we want that deep wing to go as quickly as possible into the bench and to bring that player or players back to the field. Literally escort them back to the sideline and get them started back towards their huddle. In this particular case, we don't get that. So there's a teaching point for our field judge. Back judge, we got to be careful that we don't become ball watchers. We certainly need to know where the point of attack is, because that's where the players are going to come in pursuit. But or she has got to be looking at those players in pursuit and size them up in terms of what might be coming towards the dead ball spot. And here it would have been very appropriate had the field judge recognized that this was an unnecessary hit to flag it for a late hit out of bounds. So, really a great play to learn from. And I want to thank Gary for sharing it. Now, on this first clip, the issue is going to be down here at the bottom of the screen. It's going to be the singleton receiver over here. Now, the defensive back has recognized that he's pretty much in ISO coverage over here because we have trips to the top of the screen. So he's going to be very aware of trying to keep this receiver within reach to be able to cover him in the event that we have some form of a fade pattern. All right, so watch the actions of the defensive back. All right, now what we're looking for deep wings is a determination. Does contact by the defensive back that's made illegally affect speed and balance? Well, clearly it affects balance because he jerked him uh, in a downward direction. Okay. Now, in this particular case, I'm okay with passing on this because the quarterback is looking the other way. Just be aware, though, that simply because the quarterback is looking in another direction does not excuse a defensive back or any player from fouling if the quarterback is still in position to throw the ball. And the reason is very simple. Let's say he does not find a receiver that's open and now needs to go to a secondary receiver. If that player has been fouled, disadvantaged in some way, that may affect his ability to throw the ball to him. So just be aware, particularly when you have a situation like this, that you are going to be by yourself because the back judge is going to be shading the other way. All right, clip number 2. Now, this is going to be a big hit over the middle. Now, if we look at this, what we're going to see is that clearly it's heavy contact. But you can see that the defensive player, while the hit is high, the contact is shoulder to shoulder, and the helmet actually goes behind the receiver. Now, in this association on this game, this is a five-person game. So the back judge has a lot of responsibility back there. That does not mean that our short wings should not um, get involved in judgments. Let's say that the back judge puts a flag down for targeting, and our short wing at the top of the screen has a good look at it, certainly sees the helmet on the back side of the player and the fact that it appears to be shoulder to shoulder contact. We want to make sure that we come in and start asking questions. What do you have? Okay, if it's targeting, then is this a helmet to helmet situation? Walk through the various kinds of targeting, including defensive player, and then provide the input that you have. In this particular case, targeting would not have been a correct call. This was a tough hit, but a legal one. All right, next clip. Now, this is going to be a muff situation down at the top of the screen on the left. The receiver is going to muff it towards the sideline and is now attempting to recover it. Now, there are a couple of issues here. First of all, this is application for our short wings, but it also can be applied to a punt situation. So the conditions here and the issues are identical. So in this particular case, if it's a punt, the deep wing would be back there on the pylon. And when the ball is this close to the goal line, we would want the deep wing, or in this case, the short wing on the free kick, to remain stationary. Because until this ball is possessed, there is a possibility that it's going to be muffed back towards the pylon. Now, whether this ball strikes the pylon or goes out of bounds at the half-yard line has a major determination in terms of what the result of the play is going to be. I'm sure we would all agree that the force is still the kick here. So if this ball gets muffed backwards and goes into the end zone and out of bounds or hits the pylon, the result is going to be a touchback. But if it goes out of bounds on the field side of the pylon, it's going to belong to team B, but it's going to be at the half-yard line or wherever it went out of bounds. So that pylon is extremely important. There's nothing gained by moving up this quickly, and the beanbag that's put down is incorrect mechanics because we're using a beanbag to mark the end of a kick, like in a punt, which is the responsibility of the back judge, or recognizing that we have a fumble. Here, I'm pretty sure what he was doing was indicating that the player had muffed the ball. So we don't need the beanbag for that purpose. We should have a wind the clock as soon as he touches the ball in the field of play. All right. So whether you're the deep wing or the short wing, stay home, stay with that pylon. In fact, I would say goal line extended. You don't want to get too close to that pylon. And if necessary, you can back up to the limit line to make a good decision on something that's coming that close to the goal line. All right, the final play um, involves a punt. Two things here. First of all, what we're going to have, referees, is we're going to have a team B player that is blocked into the kicker. That's going to come from the bottom of the screen towards the middle of the screen. So we'll start with that. Watch the team A player direct that player into his teammate, the kicker. All right, so when you have a player so directed that contact is, well, when the player is in contact with the player, the team A player in contact with B, we're going to recognize that as affecting team B's path to the ball. So here, it might be appropriate first to give the safe signal that you don't have a foul. And then at the end of the play, you might even use your microphone to say, the Team B player was pushed into the kicker. Therefore, there is no foul for running into or roughing the kicker. That would be a good use of your microphone. All right. So then the second talking point there is our goal line. Our goal line is well covered by our back judge. Now, this is a five-person game, so he's back there pretty much by himself. Really, really important that that goal line be protected, and he did a good job hanging back there and waiting until the punt was secured before he moves off of the goal line and comes up and marks the ball at the hash mark. So good job by the back judge. All right, let's flip to referee U now. Again, I want to thank people for submitting clips from around the state. I want to encourage you to do that. Had a clip that was submitted earlier this week from the Upper Peninsula. We appreciate the support from our friends above the bridge, so keep them coming. All right, this first one now is going to be a play that we're going to do a poll on. What we're going to have is we're going to have action right at the goal line. So let it run through, and then we'll talk it through and take our poll. All right, stop. All right, now you've got four options here. So Cody, put the poll up, please. All right, here are your choices: DPI, OPI, targeting by Team B, or no call. So please make your choice. Again, this is anonymous. There's not a right answer or a wrong answer. You're not going to be in any way disparaged regardless of your choice. Just make a choice.
We got 10 answers so far.
All right, we'll give another couple seconds here. And all right, Cody, what's the result of the poll?
All right, so there's two responded with DPI, three responded with targeting by Team B, and 10 responded with no call.
Okay. All right, so now let's break this down. And as we're doing so, let's remember that by rule on a pass, players have equal rights to the ball. All right. So let's look at it now a little slower this time, and let's analyze the actions of the defensive back. Obviously, the receiver is going to be focused on the ball. So, where is the head of the defensive back? What is the defensive back in the process of doing? He's coming up to try to catch the ball. Now, there's clearly contact there, big contact. And if we let this roll for just a minute, they both stay on the ground for a couple of seconds. All right. So in this particular case, no call is the correct call. Both players have equal rights to the ball, and that's exactly what happens here. They're both playing the ball. We have a big collision, but by rule, neither player has been disadvantaged. We don't have targeting because, again, for targeting, we have to take aim at our opponent. And in this particular situation, the defensive back is concentrating on the ball. He's not looking at the receiver. He's not attempting to inflict physical harm. And targeting would not be an operative option here. All right, now, this is an experienced back judge. This is an individual that's worked state finals. He's excellent. So this is not a competency issue at all. We all are in circumstances like this in one time or another. Now, crew culture, what I would expect is that one or perhaps as many as four people would converge and have a conversation. You can see the short wing at the bottom of the screen has signaled incomplete. I think we can see the deep wing he goes off of the screen. Okay. Umpire has even turned. All right. So we've got a flag down, but we have undoubtedly dissenting opinions about this. So we need to come together. We need to ask those questions. What do you have? Okay, I have DPI. All right, what category are you going to put this in? Because that really narrows the field in terms of what potentially the foul would be. Is it early contact? Is it a cutoff? Is it an armbar? So those are some examples of DPI categories. So once you start posing those questions to the back judge and he or she has an opportunity to think through the play, we're probably going to get to the point where pretty quickly where he's going to realize that this is one we need to pick up. And if we do pick it up, very simple, the referee comes on the microphone and says there's no foul for defensive pass interference. The defensive back was playing the ball, no foul, third down. And we mark the ball ready for play and get back to work. Okay. All right. Next clip. We're going to have a muff punt here after a fair catch signal. Now, the first order of business from a deep three perspective is part of your checklist on punts should be, or any, well, punts for sure, is that until we have possession, a fumble is not possible. So therefore, Team B cannot advance unless the kick returner has had firm control of the ball and is now executing a running play. Conversely, when we have a fair catch signal, by rule, what Team B is saying is they are giving up their right to advance the ball in exchange for the safety of completing a fair catch. Okay. So therefore, by rule, Team B cannot advance the ball after a fair catch signal. All right. So go ahead and run it. Those are things that should be automatics, though, for the deep three, that you know these things by heart, that you've already thought them through before plays happen, so that when they do happen, we're ready to respond. Now, in this particular case, I'm just fine with the timing. All right. There's a muff, and now the teammate of the signaler recovers the ball and begins to advance. All right. Now we want to make sure that we don't go too quickly, because if this second team B player muffs the ball, has not gained firm control, and by the way, we use the same criteria to complete a recovery that we use to determine whether a pass has been, that process has been completed or not. So it's entirely possible that the second player, in his attempt to recover the ball in advance, might muff the ball. So we don't want to be too quick with our whistles. We want to make sure that we allow this play to play out to the point where we are certain that we have firm control by Team B. And as soon as we have that, the play is over, and we're going to put the ball back at the spot where Team B recovered. Okay, so well handled by the crew. All right, clip 91. Now, Gary was talking, and we talked about isolation situations for defensive backs. Here's an example. We have trips to the top of the screen. Roll it back. There we go. So if you are the deep wing at the bottom of the screen, you should identify this as a trips away from you, which means that the back judge is clearly, his initial responsibility is going to be one of those receivers on the other side of the field. So at least initially, you're on an island here with this wide receiver. Now, oftentimes, Team A will come out with this sort of a formation because in their mind, their wide receiver at the bottom of the screen is a better athlete than the defensive back that's going to cover him. And eventually they're going to throw a fade pattern to him. And that's what is attempted here. All right, so the defensive back also knows that he does not have safety support on that side of the field. And like the clip that we showed from Muskegon and Rockford a few minutes ago, he's going to be pretty careful that this guy does not beat him deep. And if necessary, he's going to foul him. All right, now go ahead and let it run. But in your pre-snap deep wings, you've got to understand that this is a possibility here. So the receiver defeats the defensive back to the inside, and the DB knows he's beat. What's he do? He reaches out with his arm, attempts to slow him down. He's successful in slowing him down, affects speed and balance. We need a flag down here. This is the sole responsibility of the deep wing at the bottom of the screen. Understand that the back judge is going to transition to this as quickly as he can, but more than likely, he is not going to see what caused the receiver to lose his speed and balance. Therefore, deep deep wing on that side of the field, this is probably going to be an isolation judgment for you. This is a foul. It's a flag that we want to see down for DPI. All right. Let's transition now to MHSA football officials. We had some really good clips this week. This first clip is going to involve the end zone. What remember from our summer work that when we have a pass that goes to the deep third of the end zone, the deep wing is going to leave the pylon, take a couple of steps down the back edge of the white, is going to get stationary to support the back judge with decisions on the end line. All right, so with that in mind, let's run this one. All right, now here, our deep wing has gone too far away from the goal line. I appreciate the fact that he recognized that the back third was threatened, but we're too deep and we're taking this on the run. We want you to get stationary, 2, 3 yards beyond the goal line to support the back judge, his decision. The back judge is going to be primary because this goes over the end line as opposed to the sideline. All right. So the idea of supporting the back third is good. We just went too far. The other thing that I want to point out is that the pylons are down. Now, if it was really, really windy and the pylons would not stay up, my advice would be that you move them out of the way. You definitely don't want them down because they serve no purpose if they're not upright, right? So if they're not upright, put them behind the limit lines until such time either that you can get some weight on them so they'll stay, or don't use them at all right? Now, we don't see the back judge yet, and I'm assuming that he got stationary to help make this call. Okay, next clip is also going to be involve a play where we should have left our pylon. It's at the bottom of the corner, sorry, bottom right-hand corner here. And what we're going to get is a pass that's going to go to the deep third of the end zone. Double move. All right, now we start out in perfect position, okay? We're at goal line extended, but what we don't do is when we recognize that the end line is going to be threatened, we don't take a couple of steps. It would be to the right of, let's say that's the field judge, okay? We don't take a couple of steps down. We might even go close to where that blue line is, which is about halfway in the end zone. I wouldn't go any further than that, but we get stationary so that you can be helpful to the back judge. Now, the back judge takes this a little bit on the move. Would like to see him get or remain stationary. Remember, distance is your friend. That 3 to 5 yards that he gained by moving along the end line really was not necessary to make a good decision on the end line. Okay. So there are two examples where we didn't handle that mechanic correctly, but in different ways. In the first case, we left and we went all the way to the end line. We took that play on the run. This one, we didn't leave the goal line at all, and we signaled from the goal line. Okay, next clip. This is going to be a free kick, and what we want to do here is we want to emphasize again the importance that the umpire and the back judge getting into the hash mark. or in between the numbers in the hash mark at the very least. And the reason for that is it gives us the inside out look at blocking patterns and other decisions that have to be made. So go ahead and let it run. Okay, pretty standard return. Blocks are okay. We get to the sideline, and now we've got three officials that are on the sideline. All right. Now, the official that is now going to the ball is the umpire. Where should the umpire be? The umpire should be inside and giving ground as the players move downfield so that we can officiate the point of attack. The official that is now at about, well, just at the 20-yard line, that's the deep wing. He should have been down where the umpire was protecting the goal line. All right. So when we have three in the box is when we have a potential short kick. In effect, what we ended up having here was six in the box, both sides of the field, because we did not get inside to properly officiate the play, and our deep wings did not read and react so that we stayed ahead of it. Now, I want to reiterate that you don't have to have tremendous foot speed to be a successful deep wing. I am proof of that because the last few years of my career, my foot speed diminished a great deal. What happened was I got smarter and I became better at reading and reacting. Here, the play passes the deep wing at the top of the screen pretty quickly because we didn't read the action coming towards us and did not give ground soon enough to stay ahead of this play. All right. All right. Next clip. All right. Now here's another free kick, but in this particular case, we're going to get our umpire and our back judge in the middle of the field. That's the umpire that just got passed. That's perfectly acceptable. Our back judge is now at the goal line. Our deep wing at the bottom of the screen is down with the players and is cleaning up out of bounds. This is how we properly officiate a free kick. We have the umpire and the back judge in the middle of the field. We have the short wing that's working with the referee on forward progress at the beginning part of the return and also looking at blocks ahead of them. And we have the deep wings that initially do not move from the 50-yard line. That's a mechanics change in SEMSO for this year. You're going to read and react from there, and you can see the deep wing is slowly retreating and now recognizes that this run is going to break, and he's already on the move and does a pretty nice job staying ahead of it. He just anticipated that that runner was going to get knocked out of bounds, and you've heard me say repeatedly, don't assume, never assume. Keep your retreat going until the player physically goes out of bounds or is tackled. But overall, a good job by this crew. This is how we want to officiate free kicks. Okay, next clip.
Hey, Rich, there's a
Yes, sir.
question in the chat room.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah, this is a question. It's back on I think it's back on this play, Rich. The question is if you see the receiver lose speed and balance, but don't see the defensive action which causes the loss, do you still put down a flag?
No, no, we're not going to guess, but let me, in the next breath, say, I don't know where else you'd be looking. Okay. If you're the deep wing at the bottom of the screen, you got a one-on-one here. You got to own this one. All right. But no, if for whatever reason you don't know, do not guess. We'll be willing to take the incorrect no call as opposed to an incorrect call because there wasn't anything there. Good question. All right. Sorry, I didn't pick up on that earlier. All right. Next clip. All right. All right. This is going to be a punt. And look at the flyer near the sideline. It's going to be at the bottom of the screen. right away, there's contact. Right away, the team B player has contact and resulting with team A stepping out of bounds. Now, even though B is responsible for him going out of bounds, the mechanic is that you put your hat down in the white to signify that you recognize that that player went out of bounds. All right. After the play is over, if that player ends up recovering the ball or is involved in the play, you simply tell the referee that number 12, number 13 was blocked out of bounds and returned legally. All right. Now, the other part of this is that we have a short cushion here by the deep wing at the bottom of the screen. Remember that our mechanic this year is we're starting 10 yards behind the kick returner. All right. And the kick returner just came into the screen on the left side. All right. So we're not nearly deep enough. Now, the other teaching point here is this ball ends up hitting a member of the receiving team. Number 22, this ball hits his ankle and he realizes it. He feels the ball, right? And he ends up recovering. So no muss, no fuss. Now, if team A ends up recovering this ball, the question is, should this be forced touching? No, this should not be forced touching. When you have two players that are locked up like this, if you have the misfortune for the ball to hit you, whether it's team A or team B, you're on your own. Forced touching, if you go back to when the rule was initially put in, was intended to make it to stop team A players from intentionally pushing their opponent into the ball in the hopes of recovering it, where it was an intentional physical act of putting a player into the ball. Here, if they're locked up blocking each other, there's no intent of that to occur. So just make sure that we don't fall into that trap. That if we do have a force touching, that is an obvious attempt by Team A, or I suppose technically Team B, to cause the opponent to touch the ball. All right, next clip. All right, now move it back. Uh, Cody, move it back to the very beginning of the clip. All right, now we've talked about muddle huddle. We talked about that just before the beginning of the season. Now they bring this. The clip starts after Team A has moved from their muddle huddle, which was over here to the left of the screen. Now you can see that our field judge is already under the upright, and you can see that our umpire is standing at about the R right now. So obviously we did not start in the proper position when we have muddle huddle. When we don't have a kicker and holder in position to kick. Now you've got, as you can see at about the 10-yard line, you potentially have a kicker and holder, but you don't have the holder down on a knee. You don't have the kicker in a position where if the ball is snapped to the holder, he can put it down and he can kick. So this is not in position. Consequently, what we want is our side judge and our field judge to begin this play from their respective rear pylon, back pylon. Now, once Team A shifts, there will be plenty of time for the field judge to move in from the pylon to get to his upright. There'll be plenty of time for the side judge to come in and even determine which side of the line for Team B has the strength, where we have the overload, and get to that side. Now, the key is that we don't assume every time that Team A scores that they're automatically going to kick the ball. We have to have awareness. We have to start as if it's going to be a 2-point attempt and then respond to a scrimmage kick, a scoring kick formation as opposed to the other way around. We have to reverse our thinking on that. We need to assume it's a 2-point attempt until either they start in a scoring kick formation or they shift into it. All right. That's the purpose of that clip. We don't need to see anything further. All right, next clip. All right, now what we're going to get is we're going to get a scramble, and the quarterback is going to throw the ball to the top, towards the top of the screen. Now, the referee is going to chase the quarterback, which he correctly should do. But now watch the pile that's going to result at the hash mark at about the 35-yard line. And then watch what the umpire does. Excuse me, 40. See, we turn right away from that. Here's the referee chasing the quarterback, which he should, but we've just left 4 or 5 opponents that are down on the turf and nobody's watching them. No one is cleaning that up. That's where fights come from. That's where we end up with UNSs and we don't know how it started. And we're writing reports, and then the coordinator looks at the video and sees, well, you left these big uglies there. What did you think was going to happen? Okay. So it's not only a safety issue, it's also a decorum issue and a responsibility that we have to make sure that we're keeping the game safe and played in a sporting sort of way. Now, those piles can occur anywhere on the field. This happens to be, in my view, the umpire's responsibility. Should have stayed with this group of players until they cleared. If necessary, gone up there and helped them clear. All right. But we get piles other places near the sidelines, wherever it happens to be. So we've got to be careful that we don't leave opponents unsupervised. Next play. Okay, now this is a play involving the quarterback and the referee. But keep in mind, these same kinds of plays can happen downfield. So when we have a loose ball that occurs, what we need to do is we need to get some depth. All right. Now, this happens pretty quickly. Obviously, the referee was not anticipating this. He almost gets caught up in this. Fortunately, he didn't. But some of you know Dave Whitvote, retired Big Ten football official, now a replay official in the Big Ten. My first Big Ten game with him was at Ohio State. We went from 7 people to 6 people on a play very much like this, where Dave got run over and missed over half of his season because of the fact that he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. All right, let it run. You've just got to get out of there, and he spent time dropping a beanbag for a fumble, and I respect that. But you know what? You can toss that bag as you're running. All right. Just get the beanbag out there while you're taking exit A to get out of the way. And I'm glad that Mike was not hurt on this play. Mike Kavalich is the referee. Some of you know him. I worked a lot of basketball with Mike over the years, so I know him well. All right, so we get lucky, it gets tackled, the goal line is not threatened. I'm not sure even if he gives ground that he's going to get all the way to the goal line before players, maybe because that's a lineman that's running. But the key thing is we got to stay out of the way. And again, the reason why it's here is not only for referees, but also that these kinds of plays can happen other places on the field, whether it's the short wing, the deep wing, potentially in the middle of the field for the back judge. But we got to keep our depth, and then we have to read and react and get out of the way so that not only can we cover the play, but it's safe for us. Okay, next clip. All right, obviously a punt. Good initial depth here. Go ahead and let it run, Cody. Initially, we have good depth, all right? And we move up and we do a good job, but we round off this forward progress spot, okay? So we do a great job with our cushion. We do a great job reading. Just come all the way up to the edge of the white and then make it a 90-degree turn and come up and take that spot. We don't need to be in a hurry to get up there and to get the ball. Just come up and make it clean. But really, really good deep wing work until we got to establishing the progress spot. We're going to start it on a yard line anyway. There's no big rip to get up there and to get the ball squared off, look sharp. Next play. Go ahead and let it run. All right, now this kick returner is obviously well out of bounds when he takes this hit. You know, Gary was talking about that second offender coming in there, and that's usually the guy that's looking to lay the lumber on somebody. All right. Now, if he gets it with the player still on the sideline running north and south, it's a legal hit. Here, it's pretty obvious that this guy is well out of bounds. We come up, we get a flag. Now be careful, deep wing, because we have action that occurs right behind you. All right. So you got to have that awareness as well. Back judges, you're cleaning up this behind the play. All right. That looks like a UNS by that player in white. All right. This is a cheap shot. This guy's out of the play. He's just kind of watching. All right. He's not involved. This guy just comes up and goes, I got something for you, and here it is. All right. So we ought to have two fouls in this play. And because they're dead ball fouls, both of them could be enforced. I'd make the second one a UNS. It's a cheap shot. So enforce your UNR for late hit out of bounds, and then stick number 18, who thinks he's really bad with that hit and looks over his shoulder at the guy that he knocked on his can. Stick him with a UNS, enforce them both, put 30 yards on them. All right. Next clip. All right. Now, what we're going to get is we're going to get the offense is going to act in such a way. Watch the quarterback. Referees, here's a play for you. This guy used this, how he went about his business like this. He did it twice during the game. The whole game, he did it twice, and he got the same result both times. Okay. Now, if he does that every time, if he does that habitually, okay, we're good. It's like a pitcher. If a pitcher does the same thing repeatedly, the runners and the batter know what to expect. Here, same thing. But when he does something like that, put a false start on that quarterback. All right. Now, watch what the snapper does. All right. Now, I'm okay with that because all of those opponents have stepped away. They're disgusted. They're not even looking at him. All right. But if these guys stay right where they are, right now, if he stands up and does that, at the very least, we got to warn this guy. All right. And if there's any reaction by one of those defensive linemen, stick the snapper with the foul. Unless you've got obviously a physical act where somebody gets whacked or something like that. But if you have a little scuffle out of that, don't make it an offset. Put it on 72. He's the one that's responsible for the mess. All right. So I wouldn't foul that because he's not doing it in the face of anyone. Um, there's no hazing that's taking place there because no one's looking at him. But if you get opponents in there, at the very least, warn the guy. And if you have any reaction, stick him with a UNS. All right, next play. You know, there's a spot in the rule book that talks about simultaneous catches. Now, if you look at that, in fact, that can be one of your homework assignments for the week. Discuss what a simultaneous catch is. Look it up and discuss it. This is not a simultaneous catch. I'll just save you the trouble. We won't do a poll on it. What you have here clearly is the receiver goes up, has firm control of this ball, is going to the ground. He's to the ground first. The defensive back is attempting to take the ball from him. Clearly, the process of the catch is completed, and he eventually will rip this ball out of his arm after the guy, has been down on the ground for a couple of seconds. All right. This is a completed catch, no doubt about it. This isn't even close to simultaneous. But take a look in your book and come up with some scenarios where potentially that you could have simultaneous. Doesn't happen very often, but this is definitely not one of those occasions. All right, a couple more and we're going to call it a night. Okay, we're going to have a correct call on a hold at the pylon. Now, unfortunately, our deep wing starts in great position, but for some reason, he's going to Oh, that's the wrong one. He did stay where he needs to be. All right. We're going to have one where he gives up the goal line in just a minute. And this is the one where he stays home. Now, the chase becomes, or the hunter becomes the hunted. All right. The defensive back starts out chasing the receiver, and then it becomes a running play. And now he wants to come up and support, try to keep this guy out of the end zone. And you can see the receiver grabs an arm and he goes, "Who, me? Yeah, you bet." He prevents this defensive back. The runner is still at about the 10-yard line when he starts to hold him. All right, right there. And now he loses his balance, and the guy almost scores. He's short of the goal line. We should spot this probably at the 1-yard line. Short wing, you came down too far here. All right, you should stop at the 5 and get a read from your deep wing in terms of what he's going to do with progress. All right, that's too close. But this is a correct call, and this is good officiating because he didn't get hung up with the runner. He recognized that the receiver took advantage of the defensive back by grabbing and holding the arm and taking him out of the play. Good decision, good judgment by, let's see, this is probably first half, so this is probably our side judge. Nice job, good work. Now, the thing that I would say is finish the play. It looks like he's taken a forward progress spot, so well done. All right. Um, let's skip let's skip to number 85, Cody. What we're going to look at is the wide receiver's block near the goal line. It's at the top of the screen. Good, 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 good. We can't really tell what's going on there. We don't have high definition. We don't have a good look at it. It's possible. It's possible that we have a restriction. Can't tell for sure. If we put one down, we're going to need to have a good foul description that's going to explain that the restriction by the receiver uh, prevented the defensive back from making a play against the runner, um, and that what we need to see is that the defensive back is attempting to get off of this block. It appears to be, at least in the beginning, just a dominant block where he has good leverage. But the operative point is, okay, we elect not to ring up holding, but we give up the goal line. All right. You can see that our deep wing ends up a couple of yards deep in the end zone. You don't give up the goal line, you give ground back towards the limit line. Now, you heard me talk in previous years about the fact that those orange markers, does the press box really need that orange marker to know that's the goal line? No. You got a red goal line or a red end zone. You've got the big numbers that identify where we're on the field. Those orange things, we really don't need them. So make sure that orange marker, particularly at the goal line, is back at the limit line or further back so that you can move straight back. Now, I don't know who that is in the red. Well, I guess that's a player, so never mind. But don't give up the goal line. Go back straight from the goal line so that you can make that ruling. Okay. All right. Last clip of the night. And this is going to be another homework assignment for everyone. All right. Um, go ahead and let it play, and then I'll give you the homework assignment. All right, now you've got two guys that are going after a ball that eventually goes out of bounds. Run it back again. Now the blue player's in hot pursuit, and you can see he's grabbed onto number 22. All right. So here's your homework assignment that I hope you'll discuss this as a part of your pregame conference for this week. When you have a loose ball, what may opponents do to each other in an attempt to recover the ball? What is permissible? That should be stipulated in the rules. And is there a difference between your effort to recover the ball on your own and whatever you're doing, attempting to allow a teammate to recover the ball? Because there is a difference between those two. So there's your homework assignment for the week. All right, Cody, if you'll bring me up, beam me up, Scotty. Some of you know what that means. All right, we're almost a third of the way through the season. We should be hitting our stride here. The first couple of weeks, we've had a chance to work through some processes and get back into regular routines, not only during the week, but before the game and during the game. We should be fine-tuning things. We should be heading into the part of the season where we're doing our best work and we want to get better with each week. If this week is not better than the previous 2 weeks, either you had two outstanding weeks, which is certainly possible, or we're either taking something for granted or we're not getting into the details like the teams are. Every team, every coaching staff is expecting that their teams are going to grow as the season goes on, improve individually and as a group. We have to have the same expectations for ourselves. Um, Once again, I want to say that how much I appreciate people that tune into this either live or the recording. Being prepared in proper mechanics will get you a long way in the football world in terms of officiating. So I just encourage you to be students of the game, continue to work hard because hard work will always pay off. So we'll do it again next week, Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So hope you'll join us for that, and we'll see you then. Have a great game this week.